Welcome to the Aussie Game Podcast, where we talk all things Australian football. The Matildas are through to the Asian Cup semi-finals after an unconvincing performance in what has been a pretty unconvincing tournament, but they're 2 results away from lifting silverware. Adrian Segecic switches his allegiance away from Australia, and he might not be the only talented youngster doing that. Elsewhere, Irankunda adds to his highlight reel. The Jets lose a game of football, and we'll finish with our team of the week. How are you going, Mopper?
Fantastic. What some cracking goals overnight, not just from Irankunda, but from Robertson as well. So something to celebrate. Great to see the Matildas rearing, ready to go for Tuesday night's semi-final. That'll be fantastic. You're right. There's some opportunities there still, isn't there? And the standard of football in Asia is pretty high, as we're finding out. It's a lot more difficult than what we think. And yes, allegiances on the radar again. We've had several talks of this one throughout the last 3 months. So we'll break that one down for the fans. And I'm sure there is divided opinion on all those topics.
I love the positivity when you speak about Matilda's opportunities instead of going in and criticising them. So let's wrap their match against North Korea. They beat them 2-1 to advance to the Asian Cup semi-final. And with that result, they also booked their place at next year's World Cup in Brazil. So that was a very important result. They will be playing China in the semi-finals, who got past Chinese Taipei in extra time. So we do have that to our advantage for the semi-final. 1 day extra rest plus the 30 extra minutes that China had to play. There were 2 changes to the starting lineup, with Kaitlin Torpey coming in for Steph Catley, who is, of course, suffering from that concussion that she received against the Korea Republic team, and Emily Van Egmond, who went level with Claire Polkinghorn for most Matildas games. She also came in to this starting lineup. What did you make of those changes, mate? And was the balance much better than we had against Korea Republic?
Well, Torpey comes in, can play anywhere down the left side. Obviously, natural replacement. They tried Nevin against South Korea. Didn't quite work out and decided to give Torpey the first opportunity to start in the tournament. She did come on against Iran, but didn't really see much ball. She's a really versatile player, isn't she, on the left? She can attack, she can defend. She's a hard worker. So, it's really good to see her get some game time. And confidently did extremely well on that left-hand side. So that was good signs that we've got that backup and depth or the opportunity to starter. The midfield mix is still a concern for me, and it's more around our opponents. I think we're lucky against China because I think our physicality matches what China's got. I think South Korea, Republic of Korea, North Korea have speed, and we're going to face probably this. If we get through to Japan, we're going to face this same dilemma. So I think China won't be so impacting, but you've seen if there's both Korean teams, the pace in that midfield has tore us up. You've seen that in the possession stats, 62-38 that North Korea dominated, 533 passes to 351. Republic of Korea dominated. And you've seen how easy South Korea and Republic of Korea got through us with that ball movement and the way they possess the ball. If you are underestimating Republic of Korea, just go back and look at that. Probably that highlight at the end of the first half where, wow, we were so lucky. That beautiful football that they played in, the movement, the quick touch, the quick pass was just sensational. Some of the best football I've seen in the Asia Cup. Only to deflect off the post. I thought that was a life-saving moment for the Matildas. And then their second goal just proved again that beautiful football. And they set it up all night, and they had plenty of chances. They had 21 shots, 10 on target. They were ripping it up. They're a quality team, and it's just another warning sign that football in Asia is well documented and very competitive. So, look, we probably got out of it due to our couple of pieces of class. I think the thing that Republic of Korea didn't have is the physicality, and that of probably 2 players that play in the Women's Super League, and I think that was probably the X factor and probably the deciding factor in the game. Sam Kerr's physicality to dominate and turn over that ball, and Kennedy's ability to make that run and physically presence herself at the end of the box and put a great shot away, and Kerr's great finish in the second half really emulated the difference between a great football team in Republic of Korea and the X Factor experience that the Women's Super League present, and the high level that the Women's Super League present for our Matildas, because some of those crunch moments are decisive factors. Because Republic of Korea, they gave the ball twice in their own half and got punished by some excellent counter-attacking football and pressing from the Matildas. And those two finishes were the difference in the game, because if you look at the football sense, we were outplayed again, and we're easily getting transitioned with the football against with this high speed and high pace of the Koreans, both sides of the border.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And it was mentioned, and pretty truthfully, that in the post match press conferences, that the Matildas were dominated by North Korea the other night, and there's no shying away from that. Certainly, the stats say that. Certainly, visually, you could see all of that. And as you said, it took two moments, or only two shots on target for the whole game, and it just proved a little bit of class. But was certainly under the pump. Until Kennedy scored that first goal, we'd hardly touched the ball. And then we're just fortunate we came out of the blocks pretty quickly in the second half as well, and able to jag that second goal. So let's talk about the first goal, mate, because it did come through Sam Kerr's pressure down on that right wing, picked the pocket of the North Korean captain, and then found Alana Kennedy on the top of the box. But what a piece of skill that was from Alana Kennedy, just to be able to roll that ball with her right foot, open up a bit of space, and then crack that left foot shot into the top corner.
Yeah, wasn't it good to see that high view where she just come inside the half, made about 20, 25-yard run into the box, just outside the box, and just anticipated it, didn't it? And it fell her way. And her, like we said before, her leadership and quality is just shining through in this tournament. It's a massive X Factor difference, and she's provided the Matildas with such an extra boost that where we would normally see the goals come from other areas, but she is the one that's stepping up in this tournament and providing those big moments. And again, she delivers again, which is huge for not only her confidence, but for the Matildas themselves.
She's playing with so much confidence at the moment, and you're right. That's the type of confidence that hopefully is going to infiltrate throughout the squad. And then, yeah, our second goal, a couple of minutes into the second half, Katrina Gorry with the press and the pressure, with the ball falling to Sam Kerr, who has expertly tucked that in to the top corner with her left foot. And yeah, like that, I remember them saying later in the game that the North Korean keeper had not made a save all game, but unfortunately for her, she'd conceded two world-class goals that she couldn't really do much about at all. But I think there's definitely going to need to be an improvement. I think you're right in terms of the matchups that we're going to face against China. Hopefully, as I said before, to our advantage is the fact that we do have an extra day's rest, and they had to play into extra time as well. So hopefully the Matildas are nice and freshened up and ready to go for Tuesday night. What about Mary Fowler, mate? She's probably, for the second match in a row, she was pretty quiet. Is it time for her to start off the bench, or look at a change of position for her?
Yeah, look, she's played a good amount of football considering the amount of time that she's had off. Look, I don't think the fact that we haven't had much possession or the ability to find her in the right areas is probably reflecting on her own performance, isn't it? So it's our ability to find feet, which is concerning, and it's isolating Fowler in moments. And it's just not working at the moment. Again, whether that's due to the opposition or our inability to really find her in those spaces, or does she need to, tactically a little rethink in there? But be mindful that, we are looking at a player that's been out for a long time. I don't think we were ever going to expect that she was going to dominate games, but she does have that X factor in her. But look, it wouldn't concern me if she come off the bench or started. We know what we're going to get. We just haven't found her yet. We just haven't been able to give her much of the ball. When we found her against Iran, that was the difference. When haven't found her against South Korea, we haven't found her against the Republic of Korea, and we're limiting that weapon that we have. So, look, a tactical rethink maybe, it wouldn't hurt. You still got to manage her. She's obviously just back. So, look, at when you go deep in the tournaments, the likelihood of extra time, like we've seen against China, or penalties, is a likely scenario in the next two matches. So, look, it'd probably be beneficial, I think, for her to come off the bench. I think she can have a little bit more impact later in the game. But again, I'm not gonna. If I want to see a start, then I want to put her in the 10. I'm not satisfied that we can find her enough out wide in this position. It needs to be more direct because we're struggling to actually move the football. So it's a real dilemma, I think, for Joe, but a good dilemma to have.
Potentially Hayley Razzo coming back from her concussion as well provides Joe Montemurro with some opportunity there to start Razzo and then bring Fowler off the bench, or even start Razzo and move Fowler into the 10. So both those options would be available. But I think you're right in terms of we might have pushed her a bit too hard in these past couple of games, or even throughout the tournament, really, considering she's only just back from injury. But we definitely want to see Fowler having an impact, and potentially off the bench against a tiring China might be the best idea. We did see Mackenzie Arnold also go down at a point with a calf injury. We know she carried an injury into the tournament, so fingers crossed that Mackenzie Arnold is available. She made 9 saves the other night, most of them routine, to be honest, but her experience there will be crucial, just given the fact that our other keepers just don't have that experience. So definitely want to hope that Mackenzie Arnold is fit and firing. We also saw Kyra Cooney-Cross come on really late in the game as well. Put herself about a bit, probably trying a bit too hard with that shot from the halfway line, and probably should have kept it simple in hindsight. But yeah, hopefully, again, I know we've said it a lot, but I just think that balance is better with a player like that in the midfield. But I just don't think we've still got it quite right.
Mate, I don't know what's going on, but KCC has to start. It has to start correcting our midfield. I don't know. I'm not privy to the whole setup of the Matildas, and it hasn't really been spoken about as much as I thought it would be around her condition or fitness. But geez, we're desperate to get her in there, aren't we? And yeah, look, I just fingers crossed it on the team sheet these next two games is KCC, because whether that's with Kennedy or Fowler or vice versa with the other two midfielders that we have, we need that quality and class. Because we were talking about Mary Fowler, we only had 7 touches in the opposition box the whole game. So how do you want Fowler to operate? How do you want forward? We've got these two best players in the world in their positions, and we've only got 7 touches in the box. So we're crying out to get some more football into their feet.
Yeah, I hope because let's be honest, the team hasn't been rotated very much. There's been plenty of players that haven't seen any game time or very little game time. So hopefully fatigue is not going to set in for these semi-final, and hopefully we progress and make it to the final. Because I definitely did expect more rotation from Joe Montemurro in this tournament, but he's kept his starting team and even his bench options pretty tight throughout, and hasn't gone very deep. Probably early in the tournament was the time to do that, but certainly all these crucial games now, he's going to be forced to play his best team.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully we can get that right side going. We haven't seen it all tournament. It's one of our strengths, and I know Rasso's been out, but just even Carpenter's composure on the ball, just that final touch hasn't been there for us. So, look, I'm sure she'll be as frustrated with her own performances as what Joe wants of her. But yeah, we just haven't been able to transition down that right side and hold the football and get him in good position. So, look, hopefully that's still to come in these two games. I do think China's a better matchup for us. I think we'll be allowed to play a bit more football. We probably haven't seen our best football probably since we played Canada in the World Cup, but we're going towards that level where, like, Japan is the England in this tournament. So you've seen how devastating they've been, and the pace and the possession that they possess. It's going to be a tough ask, but I think China, good matchup. I'm so happy it's back at Optus, bigger crowd. I hope they pack it out. Deserves a sellout, and obviously get the girls really into that high tempo flying and build that confidence, hopefully, and get in the final for a big one on Saturday night.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, but first things first, Tuesday against China, 9 p.m. on the eastern seaboard, and obviously, have a look at where it is in your local area. But yeah, let's hope the Tillies can get through and progress to the final and get everyone behind them.
I've got one question for you. Okay, we've got the formation, we've got the team. What changes are you making? Obviously, Kaitlin comes in. What happens? Does she go central defence or left back?
Does Catley come in though? Is she going to be okay?
She'll be in. She'll be in. If they can play her, they're not going to not rest her.
If
She'll
they
be in.
can, if they can play her, yeah, great question. Do they play her in the centre back? Probably do. They probably do. We have looked pretty vulnerable through that middle in the past couple of games, and then we leave Torpey out there with her speed. Obviously, the midfield mix would probably like to see a Kennedy, Cooney Cross. Don't know, in the 10, maybe a Van Egmond for her experience, maybe a Sayer, and then I think our weapons out wide, Ford, Razzo, and then Kerr up front. It's probably what I would do. What about you?
We'll be intrigued.
Give us yours.
I said at the start of the Asia Cup that Kaitlin should be in the centre of the fence. I watched game 1 against Philippines, and I don't think we can win the tournament without her going centre back. I know that's a massive call, but she needs to be next to Hunt, as far as I'm concerned. And whether it's Torpey, Nevin, I don't mind either player. I think they're both good, but we need someone starting to feed that ball into the 6 a bit quicker and a bit more direct, and getting that speed of the line up, because I think we've been very slow off the back line. Look, I just don't. I think Kaitlin has to be central defence. I just cannot see us taking on Japan or China without her there. So obviously, my mix in the middle, if we want to make it work for me, our best is, Kennedy's in form, so you can't drop her. So to me, Cooney Cross has to start. It's a must now. I want Fowler in the 10. If she's fit enough player, and let's get that rock and roll football going. And I think they will feed Kaitlin and Russo and Kerr all day if we have that mix.
All right, mate. We'll wait and see if any of those changes come about, or if we see what we've seen so far throughout this tournament. All right. The other big news: Adrian Segecic has changed his allegiance from Australia to Croatia. This was big news that came through on Saturday morning. So there was some quotes from him that were via the Croatian Football Federation. This was reported by Football 360. It wasn't easy to make this decision because I grew up in Australia, which I represented at youth levels. So I would like to express my gratitude to the coaches and teammates with whom I shared the dressing room. However, my family is from Croatia and I feel a connection to the Croatian people. I felt the desire to represent Croatia as my homeland. I thank the Croatian Football Federation for their dedication during this process. I clearly felt the desire from people in the federation for me to become part of the Croatian football family. Not sure if that last one's a bit of a dig, but what do you think has happened here? Because he has come out only a matter of months ago saying it was his dream to play for Australia, and something's changed, mate. Is it the fact that he's had conversations with Popovic and he's told him he's not in his immediate plans? Is it the Croatian Football Federation, being in his ear and saying that he is part of the plans, or both, or something in the middle?
You know what? I'd love to know what your expectation is of how much we should be told, and what the public deserve to know about the whole conversation. It's interesting. He's come out pretty quick. I'd be interested to see if Popovic even makes a statement on this or even clarifies the situation. But I think this whole situation has gone on way too long. We've had our chance. We picked him. We didn't cap him. So it's our loss. We've had the opportunity to cap him, but for some reason we didn't. I think it would have been extremely disappointing for Segecic to that final game against New Zealand where he was completely left out of the squad. I thought that, I don't know if humiliating would be too strong of word, but if I was a player and I was the only one left out of that whole entire squad, that's kind of a statement. And I reckon he would have been hurt. But then after that, he come out and said, I still want to play for Australia, but never got picked for any of those squads after. So the writing again was on the wall. He said his allegiance. There was confusion. Croatia's obviously clearly moved in with discussions, and no doubt both parties would have been in discussions all the way along. And again, I think the turning point is, am I there in March? And it didn't sound like he was there in March. So I think he's just gone to make a decision. Yeah, I'm frustrated. We've let this continue on to this point. But the reality is, if I'm a player, I've got an opportunity, and if Croatia's promised him a spot in the World Cup, which hey, it's more likely. Why would you make that huge statement and go? There's a chance he'll be on that plane, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was picked in the squad, even if it was just to go along, because obviously they can make those deals, can't they? But there's 4 years between each World Cup, and I don't think players are willing to gamble anymore if a country's going to come along and say, "Yep, pick me." And I know he's going to the under-21s first, and I know that Croatia's got, I think, Colombia and Brazil in the next 2 friendlies, but I think the under-21s have got European qualifying, so they're trying to just blend that in. But I think we've just missed our chance. We had our opportunity. We've played him in the young teams. He was picked in the senior squad, but not played, and then left out in the last game, and then there was confusion on from there, which has just allowed this to unfold, and we haven't been strong enough to obviously convince the case, or whether we wanted him. Well, only Popper can answer that one. So I think from a player's point of view, if I'm not wasting 4 years, if I'm jumping on, if I'm in, if he misses out on the squad, then I think he's going to regret that decision. But don't forget, if he misses out in the squad and Croatia don't cap him, he's still eligible for Australia, no matter whether he's said his allegiance or not. All he has to do is write a letter to FIFA and say, "I want my allegiance to be Australia." But whether they would have the forgiving nature to take him back, who knows? But we've seen that with certain people in Italy, that they have been forgiving, so you never know. It is a risk on his part, but I think from our Football Australia, like I said all along, you can only give them opportunities in the young team and get to the best of the best at the World Cups and Asia Cups and try to create that culture at the start. And he's done that, but we just haven't, I don't think, acted quick enough when we had the opportunity. And I think Popper he does clearly not concerned about it, because if he was, he'd be picked and he'd be capped already, and this would be end of story.
So a couple of things of what you're saying there. I recall when we had our fan week and we were talking about this exact subject, that we mentioned what players are looking for if they have the option of these dual allegiances. And the first thing was an opportunity. So straight away, Segecic has not got his opportunity in this team. As you said, he was called up for that Soccer Ashes series against New Zealand. I think, if I can recall correctly the timeline, the next opportunity he was injured, I think. And then his form hasn't been as good as it was right at the start of the season for Portsmouth. But I think he's the type of player that can create something out of nothing. And I don't think we have a whole lot of those players. So I would have kept him hanging around and kept in his ear just for that purpose, for the fact that you could bring him off the bench still for 10, 15 minutes. And how many times have we seen it for Portsmouth this season where it's like they're dead and gone, and then all of a sudden he pulls something out of the fire, and then they're in it again. So that could very much happen in a Socceroos jersey. Won't be happening now. In terms of the allegiances, I did read some things over the weekend that FIFA is pretty hesitant for players to be jumping backwards and forwards. So it would probably take a pretty extreme case now for him to come back to Australia. So probably unlikely in that sense. But we also spoke about last night, mate, the fact that that Croatian team, they're getting on, particularly those players in those attacking midfield positions. The likes of Modric and Perisic, like, they've been around forever. This is likely going to be their last World Cup. So Croatia's obviously looking to the future. And if they don't have a lot of players in their ranks already that they're confident with, they've obviously looked across to Segecic, and he's probably been on their radar the whole time. And they've had a word in his ear, and they've said to come over. But I think Popovic, well, I think, whether we will get it or not, but I think the public deserves to have a little bit of transparency as to what has happened through this situation. We're expecting a Socceroos squad maybe next week. So I think that question needs to be asked of Popovic, and he can choose to answer that however he wants. But I think there needs to be some kind of transparency as to everything that's happened in this situation so far.
Yeah, and I hope we get it. I don't think we will, but I hope we do get it. I think we'll get it later on in life, as we always do in these situations when we find out the real story. But yeah, it's dragged on too long, mate. This whole situation is just, you blink, and you know what football's like. Tomorrow's another day. It just, the past is gone. So, yeah, look, it's disappointing, isn't it, when you see young talent? But this is what I mean. That when you're dual citizenship, you have these opportunities, and he's only looking after what he thinks is best for him. And look, I hope it works out for him. But geez, he's got a tough road ahead on that other side. Croatia, world number 11. They got some still great depth in there without those experienced players. So, geez, he's going to be finding it hard to crack it into that squad. But yeah, look, each to their own. Onward to the future, and yeah, we'll see what unfolds. We don't have to wait long to see whether he gets picked in the World Cup squad, do we? Because that's only just around the corner. So, yeah, disappointing news for Australian fans and those who are fans of Segecic. And yeah, look, we just wish him all the best. And yeah, just another one that we've missed, and it seems to be a little bit more common than which is not to my liking.
And I guess we'll see if Valparto gets picked in this March squad, because it could be one out, one in potentially. But look, the conversations and the lengths that Popovic and Paul Ocon have gone to try and get Valparto into this team, and looks like that attention has gone elsewhere, where maybe could have been laid at Segecic.
Has that impacted his decision, do you think? It must have impacted him to some degree when he would have heard that news.
Yeah, potentially. He probably considers himself on par with the ability, and thinks, well, why aren't you guys talking to me? Maybe.
Yeah, watch this space too, because Daniel Benny's talking with Scotland. So, yeah, it's going to be. I tell you what, if we lose that fella, and geez, I'll tell you. But anyway, we could talk about.
I worry that you if Daniel Benny goes, mate. I just want to make sure that you're all right.
I better give him a call. Oh, you don't know what to believe, do you? But yeah, look, I'd hate to see it, but yeah, I've got to get Dykes out of his ear, I think, from Scotland. So we'll see what happens.
All right, no midweek show, so we've got a bit to catch up on that happened during the week. Starting with Tuesday, Melbourne City knocked out of the ACL Elite competition on penalties by Borough United after drawing 0-0. Big loss for Melbourne City, but also big in terms of the coefficient points for Asia, because Thailand currently sits above us, and it would have been nice to get that win over Borough United and to keep clawing our way back. We're currently in fifth, behind China and Thailand in fourth and third. So yeah, we needed to chip away at that. But yeah, disappointing result for Melbourne City after being so good in the ACL Elite for so long, and it just seems to be a bit of the story of their season as they've kind of tailed away. And this was a disappointing result for them not to be able to get over Borough United.
Yeah, had some major opportunities, didn't they? 10 men. Yeah, they were playing against for such a large period of the game, and yeah, to lose on penalty shootout, devastating for the squad there.
Crazy
That'd
game,
be a hard one to recover.
Though. I know there were a red card each, but it could have been heaps more with some of the, I don't know, like, what do you call them, like violent acts, I suppose. Like, I don't think that's too extreme to say, but crazy game. Really could have gone either way, but yeah, disappointing for Melbourne City in our last representation. But it is the first time we've gone that this deep in the competition for quite some time. So let's hope that whoever represents us next season can do a similar job to Melbourne City, and maybe even go a bit further.
Definitely. We know we've got Newcastle on the radar looking in pole position, so we'll see how we go. All right, let's move to Wednesday, and we've got some championship action. Cam Burgess, Swansea, moved within touching distance of the playoffs with a 2-1 win over Portsmouth. The Socceroos centre-back played a full game with 11 clearances, 100% of duels ones, and good news for Pompey On the other side, Hayden Matthews is back on the bench. He was unused sub, but good to see him back and good timing because, yeah, he's got an important couple of months coming up for him.
All right, dropping down to League One, Plymouth, they take down Wigan 3-0. Caleb Watts scoring a goal in his 86 minutes, and they're closing in on the playoffs. They're on quite a run, Plymouth at the moment. Rafael Borges Rodriguez also got 7 minutes off the bench for Wigan. Elsewhere in the League One, Alex Robertson plays 69 minutes as Cardiff drop points for the second game in a row in a 1-1 draw with Barnsley as they remain second in League One.
All right, we move to Thursday morning, and one of Mopper's favourites, up-and-comers, Alana Murphy, who moved to England, has played 90 minutes for Notts Forest in their 1-1 draw with Sunderland. In the championship, for the men, we've got Middlesbrough. They had a shock 1-0 loss to Charlton, who are down the bottom half of the table. Riley McGree plays 74 minutes. They remain second, and we're fortunate that Ipswich dropped points as well. But we'll talk about the latest games soon, overnight too. So not a good midweek action for Middlesbrough. We go to Port Vale. Joe Gauci's side go down 2-0 to Bradford. He made 11 saves. He would have been tired at the end of that one, but he couldn't do anything about the 2 goals. They've also drawn Chelsea at Stamford Bridge in the FA Cup quarter-final. Not a bad side to draw, I think. There's a bit of turmoil in Chelsea at the moment, so that might be a good one. I know Chelsea's got some Champions League and all that to deal with as well, so might get him at the right time. Chief thinks Gauci will get his spot back for the Socceroos squad too. Chief, what's your thoughts there?
I just think he's in form. He's confident. I know that Port Vale aren't doing particularly well, but he's had a run of. I know he didn't get a clean sheet in this one, but he's had a run of clean sheets, and I just think from where he was in the November window when he wasn't picked, and where Patrick Beach was then and is now, I think Gauci will come back in, or I think he deserves his spot back in the Socceroos squad.
Okay, watch this space. You won't have long to wait, will you? Okay, talk us through Friday's action, Chief.
Yeah, just the one in the Europa Conference League. Garan Quol plays the first half in Sparta Prague's 2-1 loss to AZ Alkmaar. So that was the first leg in the round of 16. So let's hope that they can turn that one around and Garan Quol can have plenty of influence on that one.
Could be a smoky for the Socceroos too, Grant Cole. A lot of talk around his position in the side. All right, let's go overnight weekend action. And again, we'll start with the championship. Cam Burgess again plays a full game. They're away to Wrexham, who are coming sixth and high flying at the moment. And they, unfortunately for Swansea, they went down 2-0. And that would have drawn them closer to Wrexham, but unfortunately now they sit 8 points off them as Wrexham consolidates sixth place. And to me, with the amount of games that's left now, players probably look out of reach for Swansea.
That's
with
an
eight games
early
to go.
write-off, mate. Early write-off.
Yep, it is. Wrexham's on fire, mate. They're storming home. They're going to be hard to break down. The top 6 are on fire. There's not many drop points there. But yes, early crow. Watford go down 3-1 away to Stoke, but good news, as you've all seen, Nestory Irankunda hitting the headlines, scores in the 81st minute after coming off the bench in the 62nd. And boy, what a special goal. But unfortunately, the loss sees their chance fade again for the playoffs as they sit 10th. They're also 8 points off 6th place. But he got a nice ball there in space. He took a nice first touch. The defender sat off him and he went whack. And the keeper just slightly went to his right because that's how the ball was shaped. But it bent it back into the right-hand corner. What a goal, mate. He's certainly a highlights reel, isn't he, young Irankunda?
He doesn't score tap-ins, does he? He likes to make the most of his goals, and what a cracking strike that was, and that's his first goal from open play in the championship. So hopefully he can springboard on with this one.
Yeah, watch out the World Cup. He is there for big moments. QPR, let's go to QPR. Rangers, they beat Leicester 3-1 away. Daniel Benny getting on late in the 90th minute. Kelly Adamson still on the bench, but they take that win and they go away from relegation now, sitting 16th and 11 points clear. So they're pretty safe now, QPR, after a bit of drop in form the last few weeks. Borough again dropped points at home, letting in a last-minute goal in the 96th minute. They drew 1-1 with Bristol City, and they only hold on to second now by 2 points, but Ipswich have a game in hand. And our boy Riley McGree played 59 minutes in this one as Borough only get 1 point this week in a very disappointing week for them. Hopefully they can bounce back because the championship is coming to a close over there. There's not many games left. League One, my friend, let's go down the ladder.
Well, I was just going to say, talking about early crows, we called Riley McGree as a lock in the Premier League about a month ago, and ever since they've just dipped that form, haven't they? But nah, all good. I'm sure they'll bounce back. I mean, hopefully they get that automatic spot, which would be amazing. League One, yeah, Cardiff City, a stunning goal from Alex Robertson, and 71 minutes as his side win. With a big 4-0 win away to Exeter, they remain comfortable in second, 4 points off leaders Lincoln. Yeah, talk about a nice goal he received and just curled that one into the top right corner. Absolutely beautiful, wasn't it?
Class. Another level, that one. Another level.
Yeah, another one where we potentially were going to lose to another allegiance, but hopefully he gets picked in this soccer. He definitely deserves it based on his form. I know he's playing a league below or a standard below a lot of other players, but he's certainly dominating and playing really well. So deserves the Socceroos call up.
Plenty of minutes in the tank, hasn't it been for him ever since he got called up? Quite when he just come back. So he's had plenty of football under his belt. So that's really good news.
Absolutely, mate. All right, Wigan beat Bradford 2-0 at home with Rafael Borges Rodriguez playing a full game as Wigan pick up 3 crucial points to stay out of relegation. Port Vale back in action, another clean sheet for Joe Gauci picking up a point, drawing 0-0 with Huddersfield. Another full game for Gauci making 4 saves. Caleb Watts again gets on the score sheet. He is in some great form at the moment as his side draw 2-2 with Reading. Watts played 76 minutes. Yeah, good form continues. They're only 3 points off the playoffs in 10th in a tight table. So, yeah, really making a late charge for those playoff spots. Oh, mate, Scotland. Come on, mate. You tell us.
Heartbreak City, isn't it? Hearts lose 2-1 to Kilmarnock, who are coming second last. Can you believe it? When they were like 10 points clear of the premiership, I think they lost against a couple of lower sides as well, Hearts. They're doing them a head in. Cam Devlin and Callum Nernwolf remain out through injury, but what a heartbreaking loss this was. They didn't even look really good in this one. So it brings Celtic back up the ladder because Motherwell couldn't do any favours. They go down 3-1, although it was tight. Red card and discipline cost Motherwell in this one. It was 1-1, but then a send-off and a pen gave Celtic the upper hand. Priestman got some late game time in the 78th minute and onwards, but unfortunately, Celtic closing the gap and out of Europe, and they've only got the league and the FA Cup, Celtic, where they've got a semi-final. So it's all going to come down to when they split off in those last 5 games. So it'll be hopefully the boys from Hearts can get back fit for those ones. In the all-Aussie clash, we've seen Hibs and Livingston draw 0-0, which is a strange result because Livingston been struggling all year. But there was no game time for Ryan McGowan in this one. And on the Hibs side, Pseudo started, he's been normally coming off the bench. He played 61 minutes, as well as Jack Iredale, who's been in great form, also come off at the same time. Martin Boyle got on with 21 minutes off the bench, but no goals in this one. And Hibs just stay in 5th as they get that 0-0 draw.
Be interesting to see those Hibs boys if they get a Socceroos call up as well. Yeah, Boyle we know is pretty consistent call up, but Jack Iredale has been called up in the past, hasn't played, and then obviously Anthony Suto's come into the mix really late, and we are lacking some strikers just at the moment.
Yeah, I think this is what about these friendlies. Yeah, we just seem to don't rotate enough in these friendlies, do we? Hopefully, we'll see a change in direction in March. All right, mate. Over to Europe. What do we got in European football?
Yeah, let's start in Austria. Grazer AK. They get a 2-0 win with Jacob Italiano playing the first half in this one. Over to Germany, the Bundesliga. St. Pauli go down 2-0 away from home and remain in the relegation playoff spot after a loss to Borussia Mönchengladbach. In a decisive game with the latter, our captain Jackson Irvine played a full game and Connor Metcalf got a couple of minutes late in the game as well. And in the Frauen Bundesliga, Leah Varley plays 90 minutes for Nuremberg in their 2-1 loss to Freiburg. So she's certainly hit the ground running since her move away from the A-League women's competition.
Yeah, that's great news. All right. Over in Netherlands, Eredivisie, Kampioens AD Den Haag are 1 win away from securing promotion after a 1-0 win over FC Emmen, where Pipion played 68 minutes. They could secure promotion this Wednesday and be joining the big boys next year. That is exciting news for Cam's team. Roda JC pick up a handy 1-1 draw with Canberra in their push to make the playoffs. Josh Nisbet was again solid, again winning the most duels and the most accurate passer. Josh Nisbet has been in great form, Chief. You've highlighted him many weeks. Is he a smoky for the Socceroos? Because I really feel his form's deserved it over the last few months.
He's a smoky, but I just feel that midfield has so many options already. I think it'll be really hard for him to break in. If he was playing at maybe a slightly higher level, I think he would be a chance. But unfortunately, I love Niz as a player. I just can't see him being called up.
All right. Over to Denmark, mate. What do you got?
Yep, Rangers have a 3-0 win over Fredericia in the relegation group in Denmark. Paul Izzo plays 90 minutes, making 3 saves. And what about this in this relegation group in Denmark? They're 10 points clear of relegation, so I don't think there'll be any concerns there. But if they can top this group, where they're currently equal first, they'll get a Europa Conference League playoff spot. So that could be really cool, just the way that the competition works out for them. So interesting.
Who made those rules? That's ridiculous. Okay, rules are the rules. All right, we'll leave that one. And we wish them well. That'd be really good for Randers. They got young Toure there as well. All right, over in Italy, not a good night in the Serie A. Alessandro Saccardi plays a full game away to Torino, but they go down 4-1 in a mid-table battle. And in Croatia, we've seen Fran Karadzic with another clean sheet and a solid performance for Osijek in their 0-0 draw with HNK Croatia. In Switzerland, we've seen 17 minutes for Liam Chipperfield and Sion's 2-1 win over FC Zurich. And that's a wrap for our Aussies in Europe.
I just wanted to go back to Austria quickly because we got a few of our players playing in the top. That they've split theirs as well into the championship and the relegation group as well. But 5 of the 6 teams in the top half of that group, 5 of the 6 teams get at least a playoff spot in the Europa Conference League. So we're talking about Rapid Vienna, we're talking about Austria Vienna, we're talking about Hartberg, all in that mix. So we're almost guaranteed a couple of spots, at least in the playoffs for our Aussie boys, which is really cool.
Yep, definitely. It's a good league to be in, isn't it? And we've got a few injuries over there as well. So hopefully their sides can go on and hopefully we'll see some more action later in the year and next year for those boys. Hopefully they can qualify in those European spots. All right, mate. Over to the World Cup host USA.
Yes, the MLS last-minute winner for Patrick Yazbek's Nashville in a 1-0 win as the Socceroo plays 29 minutes off the bench. They're currently equal first in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, the season's just kicked off. 9 minutes for Archie Goodwin in Charlotte's 0-0 draw with Inter Miami. Saw a nice post on X today, mate, from Sasha Pashani questioning, or I suppose putting out the question of whether this has been a good move for Archie Goodwin at Charlotte. Obviously, he broke through. Well, he was always a talent, but he got his first kind of major minutes last season in the A-League for Adelaide and then has obviously moved across. And I think he quoted maybe 141 minutes since his move. So I'm not sure it's been the best move, but I can understand from the club and the player when that opportunity comes about. But I wonder if we're going to see many more minutes for Archie Goodwin this season.
Mate, that's the side Charlotte is playing for has got some ex-Premier League players in there, and that I can't see him getting into the starting lineup, especially with the formation that they play. Look, is it a good move? Probably financially it is, but football-wise, he'd need to keep playing, and this is the risk. Yes, the environment's great over there, and I'm sure the training facilities are great, and sometimes you've got to stick it out to break it in, but how long are you willing to wait at that age? Just Yeah, it's just a tough market now. MLS probably 2 or 3 years ago, you would have said, "Yep, go for it," but it is stacked full of talent, and they have been recruiting heavy, not just for Australians, but for European and UK players. It's definitely a very difficult league to crack into now. You've even seen some of our starting Socceroos. Like you just seen who was it, Yazbak, only coming off the bench now. Like, and he was a week in week out player last year. So that's the challenge that they've got. It's good for their football mentality and their tests and training, but again, you only want to play football, and that's the danger that it presents. And it's not like Europe where you have Champions League football or all these cups that you're playing 2 games, 3 games a week. It's MLS, it's 1 game a week. And yeah, so I think they have a cup during the year, but it's nowhere near the level of what Europe and how much football, like you just said, Randers could be in Conference League or whatever. Like, just marry it up from a football sense, and it just, yeah. But I look, I don't want to deter or say that's a wrong move, but when you weigh up the football time, you just said 141 minutes for one of our up and coming rising stars. No time in the under 23s either. Never got picked, whether that was club reason or selection, we don't know. So yeah, it's just not enough exposure. And then you got to, if you do get your chance, it's like bang, you got to do it, because if you don't, you're out. So tough one. What about your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, as I said, I understand from the player and the club when that offer comes about that you're increasing your wage in the A League quite significantly, and if you're Adelaide United, you've only had him one season of a 5-year deal, and you have this big offer come in, so that's an opportunity for you to make some money. But yeah, I just don't think that's in terms of his football development. I just don't think that's the best thing, and I guess we'll wait and see if he ends up trying to make a move out of there. We've seen a few of the boys who were in the MLS last season, in terms of Lockie Brook and Jacob Reich, come back to the A League and get significantly increased game time than what they were getting in the MLS. So maybe we'll see a similar path for Archie Goodwin. Look, we all hope that he cracks it at that level, but as you said, if you got a talented lineup there, it's going to be tough to crack into that one.
Yeah, well, they play a 4-3-3. They've got Zaha, Gorno, and Abeda up front, like crazy. And then on the other side, in Miami, you've got Luis Suarez leading the line. So, like, that's the standard that you're going up against. And for a young up and coming player, yeah, I again, this comes back down to the Joeys and the Socceroos playing high level competition at younger age groups to be prepared for this. And A League's it's a massive step going from A League to some of these clubs, isn't it? And yeah, look, we wish him all the best. And look, at least he got some time, 9 minutes. I know he's been on the bench and hasn't even got any time. So, yep, it'll be interesting to watch this space of that one. But good topic talk and good question to talk about.
All right. Some
All right,
other
mate.
releases that are getting some game time. All Aussie clash with New York City FC beating Colorado 3-1. Kai Truan played at centre back for this one. Aidan O'Neill in the midfield. Both played full games for New York, who are top of the Eastern Conference, ahead of Nashville on goal difference. Lucas Harrington also played a full game for Colorado in this one, and this was very pleasing to see, mate. DC United scored a late penalty to win 2-1 over Chicago, with Kai Rolls playing 90 minutes.
They got more wins than last year nearly already.
Oh, harsh.
That's a bit harsh. Sorry, DC. Yeah, that was harsh.
All right, let's go to the A-League men's competition. Brisbane Roar kicked us off on Friday night when they took on Wanderers. This one ended up 2-2. Mate, I have no idea how the Wanderers did not win this game. Brisbane Roar came flying out of the block with a nice goal from Georges Rakas. Michael Roos then caused a bit of trouble. Josh Belante started at centre back and seemed to be a bit targeted. He rattled one off the crossbar. Lawrence Thomas got a little touch, and then he almost created something out of nothing with a nice 60-metre run. But then it was all the Wanderers from that point. Ryan Fraser set up Brandon Borello for a nice header, and then Bojdar Kraev curled a beauty into the top corner. And yeah, that was Dean Buzanis. That was his last action of the game as he came off at half time. for Macklin Freak looked like a calf injury. So, yeah, Wanderers 2-1 up, deserved their lead at halftime. They were absolutely cruising, but the game looked so comfortable for them. But you always knew in the back of your mind that it was only a 1 goal advantage. And then 19-year-old Niall Tom, he got his debut A-League goal set up by 18-year-old Quinn McNichol, originally called offside by the linesman, sorry, and then overturned by VAR. 3 to 4 minute delay. Glenn Lauder in the commentary box was very animated, saying that it shouldn't be going on for this long unless it's a clear and obvious error. But it was overturned. Those two youngsters I just mentioned made a big change when they came on off the bench. Lots of energy, but the Raw had absolutely no right to win this game, and I have no idea how they did it. They mentioned in commentary that this was the fourth time in 5 matches the Wanderers have given up a lead. If only they'd held on to a couple of those leads, where could they be on the ladder? Even when they were 2-1 up on the live ladder, I think they had moved up to 8th in the league. They're back to last now, obviously, but I think that's, a lot of people probably think that their season's been done for a while, but I think you're getting close to mathematically done for the Wanderers now. Very, very poor showing from them, considering what they could have done in this game. But credit to Brisbane Roar and particularly those two youngsters who had plenty of energy off the bench.
Isn't it so cool that we keep talking about these kids that we've never even heard of just pop up and just take the storyline away from Western Sydney, who once again, winning's a habit, and it's just not their year, is it? There's just so many situations and so many moments in games. They just haven't been clinical enough, and they haven't executed well enough, and to get that confidence up to just keep that winning feeling happening. And it's now left them again in last, and like they're going nowhere. So, oh well, the Wanderers at the moments, but the kids of Brisbane still a show, and great to unearth some more names in that one.
Quinn
All right,
McNichol,
well,
sorry mate, just to mention on Quinn McNichol, he's a fantastic player, and he's been in that Raw system since he was about 16 years old. But just the confidence and composure that he has on the ball, and then the energy as well, and that Niall Tom, he's 18, but he's a big lad and put his body about. So yeah, fantastic for those two boys.
Yep, another draw for Brisbane. Yeah, they just can't get over the line either. So they're in a stalemate, aren't they? The Roar and Western Sydney Wanderers aren't too far behind them. All right, let's look at Wellington, and this is a good news story, isn't it? Wellington beat Perth 2-0, a dominant display from Wellington, and a match for good round game with 20 shots to 7 and 6 on target with number one, Matt Sutton, was certainly the busier of the two keepers. The Knicks were wasteful, though, in the first half, with Bill Talamo and Eze both seeing attempts fly over the crossbar. Corbin Piper, however, made no mistake from an attacking corner, rising highest to head home. Geez, so good in the air. This kid, Piper, is fantastic. And he won that one over Brian Kaltak, who is very strong in there himself. The Phoenix kept the pressure right on Perth Glory's Nicholas Pennington and put one into his own net, and the final score ended up 2-0. It was Glory's first defeat in a 4-game road trip, this being third of 4 with City away to round it off in a tough schedule. Wellington, meanwhile, now, can you believe this? Wellington looked in turmoil, and now they're up to 9th and 3 points from the finals, with interim manager Chris Greenacre picking up his first win and 2 draws within that and 5 points, and the confidence is restored in Wellington, and they look a much more settled side. So well done to Chris Greenacre and his Wellington side. They've got the confidence back and a bit of mojo, and you never know what might happen. I can't believe they're only 3 points off.
Yeah, the bottom is really tight, and Central Coast, who we'll get on to in just a moment, they were up against Adelaide, which would have made it really hard for the chasing pack. But the fact that they've now dropped points, just brings everyone right back into the mix. That the top 5 are probably gone, but that 6th spot could be really interesting to see what happens in the back end of the season. And credit to Chris Greenacre. He's provided a bit of steel in that team. They're more defensively solid, but look, to be honest, looking at this game, they created so many chances. They probably could have scored a heap more, and probably concerning times for Perth Glory. Tough run, as you said, on this long road trip, and trips over to New Zealand as part of it as well. So tough run for Perth Glory, and they have some decisions to make in the off season. Obviously, Adam Griffiths, he's only in charge for the rest of the season, and then they're going to discuss options. But big off season for them after the misstep, I'd suppose, with David Zulich and where they go next with this club.
Yep, absolutely. I totally agree with that one. I hope Griffiths stays on. Yeah, he's been a good. I know they haven't. They had in moments they were filtering around that top six, weren't they? But just really have had that tough run at the end, and a bit of confidence zapping, and a few injuries hasn't helped. And yeah, probably just needs a pre-season and backing. And let's see what happens in that space. All right, mate. The Mariners and Adelaide. Well, Adelaide dominated the game, didn't they? But Mariners held in there and took the lead, and Adelaide had to get one back late in the game, but probably well deserved, yeah, would you say? They had 24 shots, Adelaide to Central Coast 5. So, again, the Mariners scrape out a draw and Adelaide on the attack, but took a late goal just to get the draw, let alone the win.
Yeah, the Mariners, got that goal, and as I said on the live ladder, they looked like they were kind of starting to shore up that sixth spot as well. But yeah, they unfortunately for Mariners fans, though, you threw that one away. But you can't begrudge Adelaide for getting that result. As you said, 24 shots in total compared to the Mariners 6. So they really peppered Andrew Redmayne's goal for the entire game, and yeah, Ethan Alagic popped up with the equaliser, and they had some chances to go on and win it as well. But yeah, probably, don't know if either team would be that happy with that result. Of course, the Mariners beat Adelaide at Highmarsh the first time around this season as well. I think it was 4-0, if I remember that correctly. Adelaide had some players out. So, yeah, they looked like they were going on to do the double.
Shown under 23s.
Yeah, that's right. Looked like they're going on to do the double, but just couldn't quite get across the line. And both, Adelaide probably losing some pace with those front runners now, but I'd still expect them to sit in that fourth or fifth spot.
Yeah, they've still got a 7-point gap to seventh. So, some breathing room for Adelaide with not many games left. And Central Coast Mariners, I think there was about 6 clubs that were cheering on Adelaide for that draw, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kept everyone nice and tight and together. All right, mate, what about the blockbuster up the coast from this one? The Jets in Auckland, the Stars were out for this one, and the game didn't disappoint.
No, definitely a contrast of styles there. Newcastle Jets dominating possession, beautiful passing, beautiful movement. And I thought I was watching Arsenal for a bit when I was watching Auckland FC. Very, very direct, relying on plenty of set pieces and long throws to be able to get what they needed. But it was a very tight contest, very physical, plenty of tough challenges from Auckland FC, and that's what we saw plenty of them from last season. But look, the Jets did dominate possession, but they probably didn't create the types of chances that they wanted to. Then they had one shot on target, and that was the goal from Lockie Bayliss, as opposed to Auckland FC only had 30% possession, but 18 shots, 5 on target, 5 big chances created. So, yeah, I think, look, very much a contrast in styles. Even the passes, 438 passes for the Jets to 138 for Auckland FC, just shows the real contrast in the styles. But the first game that the Jets had lost in, I think, about 11 for them, some people might say the loss they needed to have before they came to the finals, but it certainly brings the table very close. Auckland FC only 1 point behind the Newcastle Jets now in the race for the Premier's plate.
Yeah, look, I think this was a Corica masterclass. He tactically targeted the physicalness of Newcastle. If there's any vulnerability I see with Newcastle, it's around that box and that physical presence, isn't it? Like when defending, and Sam the Man gets a double, and that type of target, man, like they only had 30% possession, but they end up creating 18 shots from that 30%, which I thought was incredible. And it was very Corica like picking out the holes behind Newcastle that got them the win, I reckon. And Newcastle may have played the better stuff, but they're going to have to learn two-way football. And I think Corica would have learned a lot from the games over there where they lost both of them. because I think Newcastle moved the ball really well over in Auckland when they played them and caught them out in the counter attack. But it wasn't going to happen this time, and yeah, they bought the physical presence and they targeted them and they got the 2-1 victory, and a very smart performance, I thought, from Auckland, and just showed their maturity. But Newcastle will still take plenty out of that one because they do played Auckland out of off the park in parts, didn't they? But again, they're just going to have to learn that balance if they want to compete in these finals, because they're going to have to play two-way football to do it.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to correct myself. I did say that Lockie Baylor scored the goal. It was, of course, Clayton Taylor.
Taylor.
But
Yeah.
you're right in terms of the way that Newcastle play. You know, they play that 4-1-4-1. But even with Bertolicio and Wilmering getting forward so much, there's so much reliance on Shaughnessy and Natta. And, even Burgess, he has been playing really great in the six, but his first thought isn't really defensive. He's not the type that's just going to kind of clean everything up. So, as you said, I think Corey could play this really smart, and yeah, he's got his quite direct and very very physical game, and probably tried to knock them off their game a bit. But look, they were well in it. They kept pushing right to the end. Newcastle crowd of over 12,000, so well done to the Jets fans for getting out there and supporting your team. You're still first, and I think they said in commentary in the run in, both teams play the same 5 teams on the run in. So, yeah, points,
Yeah,
any
okay.
points
Cool.
dropped are going to be absolutely crucial in this one.
Yeah, I thought the telling point too was not starting Lockie Brook and not opening themselves up and playing that more direct style, wasn't it? And well, to me, it was a key move. I was surprised Lockie Brook didn't start with the damage that he can do, but it was all to just narrow their attack and definitely paid off. But yeah, big 5 for both teams. Number 1 and 2, 1 point apart. Isn't it extraordinary though? Newcastle have only drawn 1 game all year, so it's either win or bust in their mentality. Why Auckland's been a little bit more efficient, not dropping as many points, picking up a few draws. So, like you said, it's all to play for. Game on for the Premier's plate.
Yeah, that one game that they drew was the 0-0 draw with the Mariners, so they only didn't didn't not draw because they couldn't score a goal that day. But yeah, it's going to be exciting times. It's coming down to the end of the season. Of course, Auckland FC defending premiers, so they'll definitely want to be defending that crown all the way. There's been a match going on as we've been recording. Melbourne Victory have won 4-1 over MacArthur. The downfall of MacArthur continues, Mopper.
4 in a row they've lost now, mate. 4 in a row. I can't believe it, but it's happened, and the capitulation is pretty much over for them because that loss tonight sees them 2 points off Central Coast, who now have a game in hand as well, which is important to note. They've got a game in hand, Central Coast, over Brisbane and Wellington as well. So only Melbourne City is down there with 2 games in hand on those ones and 1 game behind Central Coast. Sorry. So it's all to do, and we've got a big blockbuster Sydney and Melbourne on Tuesday night. So the football continues. But wow, the swashbuckling victory. They got off to a fly, didn't they? We're watching it just on our phones here in between, and it was 2-0, 2-1, and then 4-1. We don't have too many details as we were recording at the time, but that is a big win for Victory and puts them 32 points. Still a bit off the lead, but you know what? They're undefeated in 5, and they've had a few draws in there, but they can pull out these types of performances, can't they?
Yeah, just looking at the starting lineup for Victory, good to see Franco Lino get some time on the field as well. He's had his injury problems, and looks like John Rowe and Matt are dominant through the middle of the field. So the goal scorers for Melbourne Victory, Damien De Silva with the own goal, Danny John Rowe, Seb Esposito, and then Charles Nduka. And Luke Vickery scored the goal for MacArthur FC. So yeah, terrible run that MacArthur on, and doesn't get any easier as they then take on Auckland FC and the Newcastle Jets in the next 2 weeks. So, yes, I'm not that confident that they're going to break this losing streak anytime soon, unfortunately.
Oh well. It's yes, it's not looked good for Macarthur fans, but Melbourne Victory have no doubt got a smile back on their face.
All right, mate, let's go to the A-League Women's. Let's kick it off. Let's kick it off with Friday nights. Adelaide United getting the come from behind 2-1 win over Perth Glory. Roller Badawaya scored the opener for Perth Glory before Fiona Warts got one back just before half time for Adelaide United, and then Sarah Morgan scored the winner in this one. What about this, mate? With the win, Adelaide United up to second on the A-League women's ladder. They've had a great back half of the season, very similar to what they did last season as well. But there's going to be plenty of games. Obviously, they've had a bit of a break with the Asian Cup happening, but yeah, still plenty of games to go. But yeah, Adelaide United looking really good, just behind Melbourne City at this stage, but they do have a game in hand over the league leaders. The Newcastle Jets, they also had a come from behind win over Sydney FC. Mackenzie Hawkesby opened the scoring for the Sky Blues before Melina Ayres got one back, and then a Sophie Hoban double sealed the game for the Newcastle Jets. They are still down in ninth on the ladder, but what about Sydney FC? Rooted to the bottom of the table. Another second poor season in a row for Sydney FC. We're pretty pumped about some of the players they brought in, weren't we, mate? But it just hasn't worked out for them at all.
Yeah, probably too young, but yeah, look, they've got a bright future. They've got a lot of talent on their books. They probably just need some experience around them, and they've really struggled, as you've said. Yeah, pretty disappointing year. They finished last year as well.
They were last for a lot of the season. I got a feeling they came back a little bit and maybe didn't finish dead last, but could be wrong.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Sorry, they finished 8th. My apologies, on 25 points. So, yeah, still a very disappointing year. They'll obviously had a change in coaches during the year, so they'll have to figure that one out. But good to see a nice even comp as well at the top there. A few different teams in there. Canberra's in the top six, Perth's in the top six. So Wellington's in the top six. So they're all clubs in the men's side that aren't in there, but really showing it off. The girls are Go You Girls over there. That's fantastic. And still plenty to play for. Perth Glory is on 23, and you've got Central Coast, Brisbane on 22, Newcastle 20. So there's still opportunity there to break into that top six. The leaders are at the top, like you said, Adelaide, 4 games in a row now that they've won. Wellington's been consistent all year, and Melbourne City, without some of their stars, have undefeated in the last 4 as well. So plenty to play for in the Ninja A-League, and looks like it's going to be another exciting finish in that one as well. No blowouts there. There's plenty of competition and competitive matches each week.
Absolutely, mate. Let's go to Wellington Phoenix, who defeated Brisbane Roar 3-0. Manea Elliott scored the opener in this one, followed by Emma Pynenberg. This was great to see at halftime, mate. Macy Fraser returning to the Wellington Phoenix after having a break due to some mental health reasons. So she's an amazing player, and so awesome to see her back on the field. Michaela Woods scored the third goal for the Wellington Phoenix in a pretty comprehensive win in this one. And then Melbourne Victory, they got the 1-0 win over Western Sydney Wanderers with Holly Furphy getting the only goal in this one. And then to round us off the match today, Melbourne City with a pretty dominant win, 3-1 over Canberra United. 18 Keane opened the scoring. All late goals in this one, all second half goals. 18 Keane kicked us off. I think she got injured not long after, so hopefully she's not too bad. And then Chinaza Utendu scored the second and the third for Melbourne City, and squeezed in between that was a goal for Bethany Gordon for Canberra United. So yeah, Melbourne City looking pretty dominant there. Geez, their next round of their Asian Champions League mustn't be too far away either. So that's something to look forward to as well.
Yeah, I think it's is it late March, is it? I think late March for Melbourne City. We'll have to check that one out. But yeah, that'll be an exciting one. I can't wait for that one. They're flying the flag, aren't they, the girls? Because both Australian men's teams are knocked out. So yeah, we look forward to that challenge, and hopefully they can go one better this year and take out the Asian title. Yeah, because we'll be super pumped for that. We want to make sure we bring home some silverware for the Australian side, not just the Matildas. Hey, Chief?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, well, they got so close last year, obviously, and no doubt they want to be putting that right. So hopefully they can go one better and make sure that they win that Asian Champions League. That would be really cool.
All right, mate. What other news have you got for us as a wrap in a massive week in Australian football?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly touch on the young Socceroos who've announced their squad, 23-player squad for an Australia-China Friendship Series during the March FIFA Men's International window. Probably the thing that caught my eye in this one, and we've spoken so much about this under-20s group, the one that won the Asian Cup and then went to the World Cup, but this team, and obviously it's going to happen naturally with players getting too old and not being eligible, but this seems to be the next mix of players coming through, and there's some really good ones that are playing overseas that I'm very excited to see a bit more up and close. James Overy, obviously we know at Manchester United. But Marcus Neal's been banging in the goals for Sunderland. That's the
Yeah.
son of
Yep.
Lucas Neal as well. But yeah, some top players. Robert Cooks over in Leeds. It's probably just a lot of these players that, and we mentioned a few of these players before, like Quinn McNichol, Hayne Eames, fantastic player. Will Dobson's been playing so well for the Jets this season. A really good, talented young group, and I really hope that this is the next crop that come through, because we've mentioned this so many times that the success of the under-20s that's just come through, really good, but we need to build on that momentum and do it time and time and time and time again.
This is a hot side, mate. This is a very good side. Watch the football in this one. This is we've seen the last group play some really good football under the right tutelage. Once again, I think they're going to have another fantastic year. There's some very exciting talent on the books here, and what a great squad to go away with.
We
Fantastic.
know we know Trevor Morgan likes to play that type of football as well, that possession-based
Yeah,
attacking
definitely.
football. So I think he's got the right players to be able to play that. It's very exciting. I can't wait to see this series happen.
Yep, definitely. And sorry to just answer that question, Chief, with Melbourne City, the quarterfinals will be 28th and 29th of March, and the semi-finals will be 20th of May, followed by the final in that same week. So they're only 2 weeks away from their quarterfinal, a break, and then May before semi-final and final for the fans of the Melbourne City Women's Asian Champions League campaign. All right, mate. We also had Martin Kluger get on the air this week. We've seen him over many stations, and obviously, and we've seen Popo on Stan Sport as well in added time. So we've seen a lot of talk show this week, and it was interesting to see some of his thoughts around the camp and some of his history with his side and the discussion around the Socceroos. Did you have a chance to listen to any of the pods and information throughout the week?
I haven't heard any of the Popovich ones, so maybe you can give us a summary on those ones. But the bits I saw from the Martin Kugler interviews spoke very positively about the types of things that he wants to do in his role. I have seen some criticism of that, saying that we've heard all this before, but it's about the actions, and that's very much true. But he's had some meetings with the APL already in terms of how they can start to work better together and with the federation. So I think this is all positive news. Obviously, at the moment, there's the focus for the women for the Asian Cup and then the men's World Cup. So that's definitely going to be a big focus for a lot of people at Football Australia at the moment. But I think in terms of having these meetings and continuing to progress opportunities, I think is a really positive thing. So it just it ever since that first press conference, I just get this different feeling about Martin Kugler and what he's going to be able to do in this Football Australia role. And even it was something simple, and we posted this a couple of weeks back, but they were promoting the Football Australia account on X, promoting the Sydney Big Blue ticket deal, which should be an APL kind of job, and people will look at that and go, yeah, of course, that's what they're doing, but it just hasn't happened that way in the past, and it's just been these kind of conflicting interests. But hopefully, everyone's going to get on board now, and we're all going to row in the same direction and try and achieve some great things for football in this country.
Yeah, definitely. There were actions. He said he had a meeting with obviously the A League, and then two follow-up ones after that. So, yeah, so obviously there's clear he knows there's a bit of work to do in that space. So, and that's in his 100-day of just building relationships, he was saying. So he's 3 weeks in and already very busy, but very transparent too, which is good. And I can understand, yes, a lot of people have spoken about the voice, but yeah, look, can't wait to see some of these actions come out of, his tenure. It's going to be exciting, just a fresh face and to get this ball rolling. Tony Popovic, I really like some of the points he come out around the under-20s. I know I talk a lot about the under-20s, but he talked about when the players have pressure, we need to get more pressure on these players because the teams that we played over there just, took it all in stride, and we kind of panicked a little bit. And when the pressure is off, we played our better football. I thought that was really important note because it's so important to get these younger players exposed. And he spoke about that a lot, just not at international level, but at club level. I think that's what's really important. He's been pretty big on that ever since his tenure's come in. He's spoken about it before, how important that getting the right club and getting under pressure and really trying to fight and find that balance and resilience, and getting exposed at a young age. It's a really important piece of our football, I believe. A lot of other stuff he talked about when he was over in America. He's very happy with the facilities he's got. Talked about a little bit of, the guys were talking about the American game, which they're trying to pump it up, and yeah, which is good, and all the hoo-ha that's happened. So it was a good insight. He did speak about his trip over to Italy, how he had the conversation about what his thoughts are and the jersey and that with some of the dual nationality players that we've got. So that was interesting. I'm really curious to see whether that happens more often than we probably hear of, but at least he was open and upfront about it because there was a lot of questions about that a week or two ago. And yeah, just some of the old journeys and the pride and the Socceroos and yeah, the joy of obviously coaching this group and not just for this World Cup, but for the next tenure of the Asia Cup as well. So yeah, no, it's good to get some thoughts and listening out of Popper. And yeah, it would have been, it's a good one. If you haven't heard, just jump back on Stan and you'll see it in at a time. And it's always good to hear from Martin and Popper and to really connect all the questions and probably some of the things that we've been wanting answered or to get a better understanding of anyway along the journey line of what's ahead for us, especially in these next window and what's ahead with the big World Cup.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And I think that's all us fans want is the transparency to make sure that you know our voices are being heard and we have a bit of an understanding of the direction. So the more that Martin Kugler can get out in front of the press, and to be honest, James Johnson was pretty good at that. But the APL side, Steve Rosic has done plenty in his time already, and let's hope that that continues. Just having an idea and being able to go on those types of shows and answer questions. I'm sure Bozza wouldn't have given these guys an easy time on the show. So to be able to face up to some of these legends of Australian football and answer their questions because they're passionate like us and they want the best for Australian football. So rather than just kind of stay behind the scenes and kind of do your thing, go on these shows and answer some tough questions about what you're doing.
Yep, no, it's good to see and it's great to hear. And that wraps up a big week in Australian football. Let's go to the team of the week, mate, because this has been a massive show with so much on.
All right, mate, let's go through them. How could we deny Joe Gauci his second week in a row in our team of the week? But massive week, couple of clean sheets, and even in that 2-0 loss, making 11 saves. So I certainly think that he deserves his Socceroos spot back. Frian Karacic is at right back, been very consistent over there in Croatia. Kayla Morrison for Melbourne Victory in the centre of defence, along with Kai Truan. Kaitlin Torpey at left back, thought she was really good for the Matildas the other night. The base of that midfield, Alana Kennedy, the goal scoring machine, and Alex Robertson with that absolute worldie. And what about this front line? Nestory Irankunda. Niall Tom was really good for Melbourne, for Brisbane Roar the other night off the bench. Caleb Watts in some hot goal scoring form, and Sophie Hoban for her double for the Jets. And our super sub Mopper, who you got?
Good news story. Furphy tapping in the winner for Melbourne Victory after a vicious shot from her team. She was in the right place at the right time to get the winner against Western Sydney, and a good news story. Good young talent, Furphy, and great to see her getting on the score sheet and playing a good game. So well done to Furphy. She's my good news story of the week, and there was many of them, as many of those players that you picked starred in what was a fantastic week for their careers. Let's onward and upward, and hopefully they can back it up and have another cracker this week.
All right, mate, a quick aside before we finish up, because your team and my team in the Premier League are going to have quite a bit of a say in the relegation battle overnight. Your Reds taking on Spurs first, and you're going to do the job on Spurs and put the worry through all the Spurs fans about being relegated.
Oh, I think this game's going to go one way or the other, isn't it? It's going to be a total annihilation, or we're gonna see some Spurs maybe resilience. I don't know. If I was a Spurs fan tonight, they're all thinking the worst, aren't they? So, but that's the worst thing in football, isn't it? When you underestimate someone. But Liverpool with Chelsea slipping up need this win for the Champions League, and I'm sure the Spurs didn't want that when they seen Chelsea lose this morning to Newcastle. And yeah, Fulham away to Notts Forest, who lost in Europe just the other night and have to back it up within 48 hours after a 1-0 loss to, I think it was Midtjylland on Friday morning. So, yeah, Fulham obviously only got the one focus, and yeah, they'll be fresh and ready to go. They'll be hard to break down. I really like Forest in this, but after backing up from Europe, it always worries me, teams with the fatigue and their players playing in such a difficult conditions over there, and they've got the second leg all next week, and so does Tottenham and so do Liverpool. So, and Liverpool have to win against Galatasaray, and then look, Tottenham probably look shot against Atletico Madrid. But yeah, I think it could be all curtains for Tottenham tonight. West Ham pick up a point this morning against Man City. Incredible. We could see Tottenham. Could we possibly see Tottenham in relegation tonight?
I don't think so. I think
I don't think so.
no, maybe if it's a big
West Ham.
maybe if it's a big goal difference swing, but I think it's
Yeah,
like
you're right.
way
Minus
off.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah, -7 to -19. So
Yeah.
maybe if Liverpool win 13-0.
Yeah. But yeah, incredible that those two former Ange coach teams are there now, and obviously still in Europe, both of them. But yeah, bigger concerns for both of them at the moment. Yeah, so the Spurs had a shocker during the week. I don't think we're going to see Kinski start in goals for Spurs, and yeah, it's going to be a massive game for them. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to wake up and see that one. There's a couple of other games with Aussies involved. Netherlands, the Eredivisie's back in action as well. The big Dundee derby as well for the guys at Dundee United. So some cracking games to come overnight. But we'll get to them midweek when we do the Matildas wrap on Tuesday night.
Yeah, what a week ahead too. Wow, this is the business end of the season. Any questions or anything over allegiances or some of the topics tonight, Matilda semi-final hopes, bang in those questions, because there'll be plenty to talk about after we wrap up the Matildas game on Tuesday night for our Wednesday pod. So if there's any thoughts, throw them in, whether it's Matildas, allegiances, Australia's, young talent. Yeah, bring them out, bring them on, and hopefully we'll get some time to talk about some of those key points from the listeners. Love to hear your thoughts and feelings on some of the points we discussed tonight, some heavy hitting topics.
Well said, mate. Thank you for your time this evening. Thank you, everyone, for listening. As Mopper said, we'll be back on Wednesday to do a review of the Matildas game. In the meantime, enjoy your football.
All the best, everyone.